This happened the night of my mother's retirement party. My husband and my boss were behind the barn. I saw them. Just after Mom received her silly little plaque, celebrating 30 years of, what exactly? Being underappreciated? Anyway, there they were. Eric, my husband, and Pamela, my boss, behind the barn. What would you do? Honestly, what flashes through your mind in that split second when your whole life pivots? The air in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that May evening in 2025 was thick. Not just with humidity, the kind that clings to you like a guilty secret, but with expectation. Mom's retirement party, a big deal. 30 years at the local paper, the Lancaster Ledger. She'd practically bled ink. The barn, all rustic charm and twinkly lights, was overflowing with well-wishers, rubber chicken, and forced smiles. Eric was charming as ever, schmoozing with my aunts, complimenting my cousin's hideous dress, generally being the perfect husband. Pamela, ever the professional, was giving a heartfelt speech about Mom's dedication, her voice dripping with sincerity that now tasted like ash in my mouth. I remember thinking, as I watched Eric laugh a little too loudly at something Pamela said, that they were spending an awful lot of time together. Not in a malicious way, at least not that I could discern at the time. Work stuff, I reasoned. They're both important cogs in the machine that is local journalism. He was head of marketing, she was the editor-in-chief. The plaque presentation was, well, it was a plaque presentation. Mom smiled, teared up a little, gave a predictable speech about hard work and dedication, the kind of thing you expect. Afterwards, the crowd surged around her, eager to offer congratulations. It was chaos, a blur of floral prints and backslaps. I lost sight of Eric in the throng, and then I saw Pamela subtly detach herself from the group and walk towards the old barn behind the main reception area. It wasn't really used for animals anymore, just storage, mowing equipment, old farm tools, the kind of stuff that collects dust and memories. A little while later, I saw Eric excuse himself, murmuring something about needing some air. He headed in the same direction, a perfectly innocent scenario, right? Two colleagues stepping outside for a breather, except something felt off. A tiny, insidious voice whispering in the back of my head. My stomach clenched with unease. I told myself I was being ridiculous, paranoid. I'd been working crazy hours at the HR department, prepping for a new employee onboarding software implementation. Stress does funny things to you. But I couldn't shake the feeling, so I followed. The barn door creaked open, casting a sliver of light onto the dusty floor. The air inside was thick with the smell of hay and damp wood. And something else. A faint trace of Pamela's perfume, the one she always wore to important meetings. It was called ambition. How ironic. I moved slowly, carefully, trying not to make a sound. And then I saw them, under the single bare bulb that hung precariously from the rafters, illuminating the scene with a harsh, unflattering glow. Eric and Pamela. Close, too close. He was leaning in, his hand resting on her arm. She was looking up at him, her expression soft, vulnerable, an expression I hadn't seen on her face in years. I didn't hear what they were saying. I didn't need to. The look in their eyes spoke volumes. My breath caught in my throat. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The noise of the party faded into a distant hum. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. What would you have done? Confront them? Run away? Pretend you didn't see anything? I froze. I was paralyzed. I stood there, hidden in the shadows, watching them, feeling my heart shatter into a million pieces. Then Eric turned slightly, catching a glimpse of me in the doorway. His eyes widened in horror. Pamela followed his gaze. Her face hardened, the vulnerability vanishing, replaced by a cold, calculating look. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. "What are you doing here, Pamela?" My voice was barely a whisper. I just wanted to see if everything was okay." Everything is perfectly fine, she said, her eyes narrowed. We were just discussing business. Business? Behind the barn? Under a single flickering light bulb? Eric looked like he wanted to disappear. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. Really? I asked, my voice trembling. Because it looked like you were doing a lot more than discussing business. Pamela stepped forward, her voice low and menacing. You didn't see anything, understand? This is a very important matter, and it's none of your concern. She was threatening me, my boss. In front of my husband, the shock of it all. A surge of anger coursed through me. None of my concern, I repeated, my voice rising. He's my husband, Pamela's face remained impassive. Eric is a valuable asset to this company, and you would do well to remember your place. My place? What did she mean by that? Are you threatening my wife, Pamela? Eric interjected. He sounded weak, defeated. Pamela ignored him. You need to think very carefully about what you do. Your mother's retirement is a big deal. Don't ruin it for her. She was right. Mom deserved this. She deserved her moment in the sun. But at what cost? My sanity, my marriage, my career? I turned and walked away, blindly, back towards the noise and the lights, back towards the party. The smell of the rubber chicken suddenly made me nauseous. How could I pretend everything was normal? How could I smile and make small talk when my world had just imploded? The rest of the evening was a blur. I went through the motions, forcing a smile, making polite conversation. Eric stayed close to my side, his hand hovering tentatively on my back. Pamela avoided me, but I could feel her eyes on me, watching, assessing. I managed to make it through the night without completely losing it, but inside, I was crumbling. Eric followed me, his face etched with worry. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice barely audible. I never meant for this to happen. What exactly happened, Eric? I asked, my voice flat. He hesitated, then launched into a rambling explanation. It started with late nights at the office, a shared sense of humor, a mutual appreciation for something. The details were fuzzy, vague. He claimed it was nothing serious, a momentary lapse in judgment. I didn't believe him. How long has this been going on? I asked. He mumbled something about a few weeks. A few weeks? Or longer? Was our entire marriage a lie? I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene in the barn over and over in my head. The look in their eyes, the way they stood together, the sheer, unadulterated betrayal, I had bills to pay, a mortgage to cover. But the atmosphere at the office was different, tense, charged. People avoided making eye contact. Whispers followed me down the hallway. Pamela called me into her office. We need to talk, she said, her voice cold and professional. I sat down, my hands trembling. I've been reviewing the payroll reports, she said, her eyes fixed on the computer screen. And I've noticed some discrepancies. Discrepancies? What was she talking about? What kind of discrepancies? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It appears there's been some unauthorized activity, she said, her gaze. Some money is missing. Missing? My heart leaped into my throat. I don't understand, I said. I haven't done anything. That's not what the records show, she said, her voice hard. She was framing me. She was setting me up. You're lying, I said, my voice shaking with anger. You're doing this because of what I saw last night. Pamela remained impassive. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm afraid I have no choice but to suspend you, pending further investigation. Suspended. My life was falling apart. My husband was cheating on me, my boss was framing me, and my career was in ruins. I left the office in a daze. I didn't know what to do, who to turn to. I went home and found Eric waiting for me. I know what happened, he said, his voice filled with remorse. Pamela told me she suspended you. She framed me, Eric, I said, my voice trembling. She's trying to ruin my life. He looked at me, his eyes filled with guilt. I'm so sorry, he said. This is all my fault. Yes, it is, I said, my voice cold. I'll talk to her, he said. I'll tell her the truth. Do you think she'll listen to you? I asked. After what happened between you two? He didn't answer. I didn't trust him. Not anymore. I hired a lawyer. I gathered evidence. I tried to piece together what had happened. It was an uphill battle. Pamela was powerful. She had connections. And she was determined to protect herself. One afternoon, I went to visit my mother. I hadn't told her about any of this. I didn't want to worry her. She was sitting in her garden, tending to her roses. She looked tired, but happy. How was the party? I asked, forcing a smile. It was wonderful, she said. I had such a good time. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. Not yet. But as I looked at her, I realized something. She deserved to know. She deserved to know the kind of person Pamela really was. That evening, I received a strange package in the mail. It was a small, unmarked box. I opened it cautiously. Inside, there was a single piece of paper, a note. It read, "Leave it alone, or you'll regret it." A threat. Someone was trying to scare me. Someone wanted me to drop the investigation. But who? Pamela? Eric? Or someone else entirely? I felt a surge of fear, but also a surge of determination. I wasn't going to be intimidated. I wasn't going to let them win. I decided to dig deeper. I started looking into Pamela's past, her career, her personal life. And I discovered something interesting, something that could change everything. She had been accused of financial irregularities at her previous job. The charges had been dropped, but the rumors persisted. Could this be connected to the payroll discrepancies at the ledger? Was Pamela a repeat offender? I needed proof. I started searching for evidence. I went through old files. I interviewed former colleagues. I tried to piece together the puzzle. It was slow, painstaking work, but I was making progress. One day, I found something. A hidden file on Pamela's computer. A file that contained evidence of a complex scheme to embezzle money from the company. I had her. I took the file to my lawyer. He was ecstatic. This was the smoking gun. We went to the police. They launched an investigation. Pamela was arrested. The truth was, but the story didn't end there. During the investigation, I discovered something else. Something even more shocking. Eric was involved. He knew about Pamela's scheme. He had been helping her cover it up. He had betrayed me. Again, I confronted him. He denied it at first, but eventually he confessed. He said he did it because he was afraid of losing his job. He said he was trying to protect me. But I didn't believe him. I filed for divorce. It was over. The trial was a media circus. Pamela and Eric were both found guilty. They were sentenced to prison. I was vindicated. My name was cleared. But the experience had changed me. I was no longer the naive, trusting woman I once was. I had learned a hard lesson about betrayal, about the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly perfect relationships. I started a new life. I moved to a new city. I got a new job. I was happy, but I was also wary. I knew that betrayal could happen again. That trust was a fragile thing, but I also knew that I was strong, that I could survive anything, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on. But there was one more thing I needed to do. I needed to talk to my mother. I went to visit her. She was still living in the same house, tending to her roses. I told her everything, about Eric, about Pamela, about the embezzlement scheme. She listened in silence, her face etched with sadness. When I was finished, she took my hand. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I had no idea." "It's not your fault, Mom," I said. "I should have seen it," she said. "I should have protected you." "You did protect me, Mom," I said. "You always have." We sat in silence for a long time, holding hands. Then, she said something that surprised me. "I knew," she said. "You knew?" I asked. "I suspected," she said. "I saw the way Pamela looked at Eric. I saw the way he looked at her. I just didn't want to believe it. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I thought it would pass. I thought it was just a phase. And you were willing to let me be betrayed? I asked, my voice rising. No, she said, but I didn't know what to do. I was afraid of losing you. I looked at her, my heart filled with conflicting emotions. Anger, sadness, disappointment, but also love. She was my mother, and she had done what she thought was best. Could I forgive her? Could I forgive Eric? Could I forgive Pamela? I didn't know. Maybe someday, but not today. For now, I just needed to focus on myself, on healing, on moving forward. The sun was setting behind the neighbor's house, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It was a beautiful sight, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. The air smelled sweet, like blooming honeysuckle. What would you have done if you were me? It took a long time, but I managed to rebuild my life. I found a job I loved, made new friends, and even started dating again. The scars of betrayal remained, but they didn't define me. I learned to trust my instincts, to value honesty, and to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made. I occasionally thought about Eric and Pamela, locked away in prison. I wondered if they regretted their actions. I wondered if they ever thought about me. But mostly, I just tried to forget them. My mother eventually retired for real, moving to Florida to be closer to my aunt. We spoke often, and our relationship grew stronger than ever. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about condoning their actions, but about freeing myself from the bitterness and resentment that had consumed me for so long. One day, I received a letter. It was from Eric. He wrote about his remorse, his guilt, and his deep regret for the pain he had caused me. He said he understood if I could never forgive him, but he hoped that one day I would find peace. I read the letter, tears streaming down my face. And then I did something unexpected. I wrote him back. I didn't offer forgiveness, but I acknowledged his pain and I wished him well. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The past would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to define me. I had survived betrayal. I had rebuilt my life, and I had learned to love again. Maybe that's the best revenge of all. To not let them win, to choose happiness, to keep moving forward. So, could you forgive them? What's your take on this? It was the only way I could move on. If you liked this story, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more true crime-inspired stories of betrayal and resilience, and leave a comment below. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Write what you would choose. I want to know. And remember, betrayal can happen to anyone, but it doesn't have to break you. You are stronger than you think. The honeysuckle scent. I think that's what really got to me. This sweetness clinging to the air as if nothing horrendous had happened. The world carrying on as though Eric hadn't betrayed me, and Pamela hadn't tried to destroy my career. It felt mocking. Do you ever feel like the universe is just laughing at you? Like it's set up this elaborate joke and you're the punchline? Well, that's how I felt. I needed a clean break, a fresh start. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, as charming as it was with its Amish buggies and farmers markets, was now tainted. Every street corner held a memory, every familiar face a reminder of the devastation. So, I packed up my life into boxes, said goodbye to my tearful mother, and moved to Philadelphia. I found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, a place with exposed brick walls and a view of the city skyline. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and it was a blank slate. Finding a new job wasn't easy. My reputation had taken a hit, even though I was eventually cleared of all charges. Pamela's smear campaign had left its mark, but I was persistent. I networked, I interviewed, I poured every ounce of my energy into proving myself. It wasn't glamorous, but it was meaningful. I was helping people, making a difference. It felt good. It felt right. I tried to avoid thinking about Eric and Pamela, but they haunted my dreams. I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, replaying the scene in the barn over and over in my head. It was like a broken record, stuck on repeat. Sometimes I would catch myself staring blankly into space, lost in thought, wondering what they were doing, how they were coping. Were they even sorry? Or were they just angry at me for exposing them? I started seeing a therapist. She helped me process my emotions, to understand what had happened, and to move forward. She taught me coping mechanisms, strategies for dealing with the anxiety and the flashbacks. It was a long and difficult process, but it helped. Slowly, gradually, the pain began to subside. I started to feel like myself again. One evening, a few months after I moved to Philadelphia, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from my cousin, Sarah. "I have something to tell you," she said, her voice hesitant. "It's about Eric." My heart sank. "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself for the worst. He's trying to contact you," she said. "He's been calling Mom, asking for your number." "Don't give it to him," I said immediately. "I don't want to talk to him." "I know," she said. "I wouldn't. But he sounds really bad. He said he needs to apologize." I hesitated. A part of me wanted to hang up, to block him out of my life completely, but another part of me was curious. What did he want to say? What could he possibly say that would make up for the pain he had caused? "What did he say exactly?" I asked. Sarah hesitated. He said he made a terrible mistake. He said he ruined everything. He said he loves you." I scoffed. "He loves me? After everything he did?" "I know," she said. "It sounds crazy, but he sounded so sincere. I think he really regrets what he did." I thought about it for a long time. I weighed the pros and cons. Was it worth it? Was it worth dredging up the past? Or should I just leave it all behind and move on? What would you have done? Given him a chance, or slammed the door in his face? I decided to meet him. Not because I wanted to get back together with him. Not because I believed his apology. But because I needed closure. I needed to hear what he had to say, and I needed to say what I needed to say. We met at a coffee shop in a neutral location, halfway between Philadelphia and Lancaster. I arrived early, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. I ordered a coffee and sat at a table near the window, watching the passers-by. He was late. I started to wonder if he would even show up. Maybe he had changed his mind. Maybe he was just playing games. But then I saw him. He walked through the door, his head down, his shoulders slumped. He looked different, older, worn. He saw me and hesitated for a moment. Then he walked towards me, his eyes filled with remorse. "Hi," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for meeting me." I nodded, my throat tight,